was fascinated as I learned more and more about our guest and his background that is not in healthcare. He was actually born and raised in the Hell's Kitchen area of Manhattan. Not the Hell's Kitchen area of today with some trendy restaurants and some nice areas. It was the Hell's Kitchen that gave it its name, Hell's Kitchen. And he shared a story once about how he never knew he was poor until one day he was out in the street playing like he usually did, and a tourist bus stopped in front of him. And a lady who was dressed in some fancy clothes sort of looked down at him and his brother and said, "Huh, so that's how they live." And he didn't even know what that meant, but his mom explained it to him, and he determined that he would work hard to have a better life. So he studied hard, ended up going to Cornell, and entered the hospitality industry. But like a lot of people who have this, as he calls it, a genetic mutation called entrepreneurship, genetic mutation, he didn't last at too many places, and he had the great honor of actually being fired by Disney. He said that the guy who fired him from Disney said, "You know, Harris, you're just never going to be a Disney man." And Harris said, "What's the matter? My ears aren't big enough?" And they said, "That's exactly the kind of bullshit we're talking about, Harris." So after that, it was in the early to mid 70s. Economy was a wreck, oil embargo in place, and all the hotels in the Orlando area were going bankrupt. So he took $20,000, every dollar he had, and he bought a bankrupt Quality Inn as his first hotel. Instead of being excited, he told me that after he had bought the hotel, that night he went to his room and he realized what a stupid thing he had done, and he started crying. To market the hotel, he wanted to come up in the Northeast to call on the motor coach companies, the tourist travel companies, get them to bring all their passengers to his hotel. But he'd spent all his money buying the hotel. So he went outside and he hitchhiked up to New England and got dropped off and went to the different motor coach companies. He didn't have a plan, but he had business cards. So he went to each one and said, what rate do you want? You tell me whatever rate you want. I'm going to write it on my business card. This is our contract. So he was doing these contracts for $7 a room, $8 a room, gave out all his cards, got lucky and got a ride back home. And fortunately, with this entrepreneur story, that was the start of a great adventure. That hotel eventually thrived. He went on to buy or build 7 more hotels. He has this hotel and resort chain, an empire in the Orlando area. Also, what's unique, it's all debt-free. He was taught when he was a kid, you don't borrow. You don't buy a business or invest until you have the money in the bank. That is a very rare thing today, very rare thing today. The newest property is the Rosen Shingle Creek outside of Orlando. I had a chance to do a meeting there, and I've stayed there recently, and I don't mind giving the direct plug. I will never stay in another hotel in Orlando except the Rosen Shingle Creek. It's that phenomenal of a property. His business success is matched only by his philanthropic efforts. He has many initiatives going on, but there's one in particular that I think will resonate with this group. He learned of a neighborhood, a community outside of Orlando called Tangelo Park. And it was sort of an urban area that was fraught with a lot of the ills that are so common. He never said this, but it makes me wonder if when he went to Tangelo Park, he didn't think of Hell's Kitchen. He decided to start a program working with the community leaders, completely funded by himself, 3-prong approach. Free preschool for all kids age 2 to 4, free preschool. Any high school student that gets a diploma, free tuition, room and board, books, and expenses to any college they're accepted to. He picks up the tab. And the 3rd prong is that he offers free parenting and counseling classes for any adults in the community. Since he started the Tangelo Park program, over 500 kids have gone through preschool. The high school has a 99 to 100% graduation rate. I didn't believe that when I heard it. It's higher than the graduation rate at the high school that my kids will be going to. I checked it out, and it's true. Over 250 kids have accepted full scholarships to college. I believe one just earned their PhD. And as a result of all of this, the neighborhood has completely transformed and crime has dropped by 50%. It's been studied as a potential model that could be rolled out through urban areas and impoverished areas throughout our country. But we are here today to talk about healthcare. Why are we asking him to come and join us today? Well, I found out that the Rosen Properties, he's known for building and managing an on-site medical center. So he provides direct service for his employees. I also found out that he insists that his employees remain nicotine-free. When I first heard this, I said, oh, no smoking on the property? If you want to work here, you don't smoke or chew, even on your own time, and he drug tests for it. That, I thought, was an interesting idea. We spend so much time talking about behavior change. How do we get people to change behaviors for the better? Well, how about mandating behavior change? He has been named a top 10 CEO, Cornell Entrepreneur of the Year, and a healthcare hero. Please welcome Mr. Harris Rosen.
That was a great introduction. I don't know how you remembered all of that.
So Harris, thanks for joining us. Being a hotel man, what's it like to come to a property like this? Not as new as your Shingle Creek.
It's a beautiful property. It needs a little work.
You know, I didn't tell you this beforehand, and I don't think everybody in the audience knows that this Bellevue, used to be the Bellevue Hotel years ago, is actually famous for another healthcare-related reason, that this was where Legionnaire's disease was first discovered.
Yep, I'm aware of that. You know.
Those of you who didn't know, some people are heading for the exits.
No. They fixed the problem.
So, Harris, I want to start with some basics. Tell us about your on-site healthcare facility.
Well, it's nothing new. It's something we started about 20 years ago when we had about 500 covered lives. We have 4,500 covered lives now. And we did it because we weren't very happy with what we were doing. We had the traditional healthcare coverage. We didn't believe that the insurance company really cared a great deal about our associates, that they were trying to do things proactively to ensure that our associates maintain good health. We spoke with them, and that convinced us that they really didn't care. The option was that we try another organization, or that we do it ourselves. And it was just perfect timing because our accounting office was moving from a little facility we had constructed for them into one of our new properties. We had about 2,500 square feet of empty space. We were thinking about daycare, and we decided that that wasn't appropriate. And we said, let's do our own primary care facility. And we said, okay. We didn't know anything about it.
Yeah, so this conventional wisdom of stick to your core competency and all that, you said, nah, we're going to start our own on-site.
Yeah, we're not a company that believes in sticking to your core competency. We've engaged in a multitude of other businesses, some successful and some not, but we're not afraid. So we hired a wonderful primary care physician. We had a staff of about 3 or 4. We opened from 9 o'clock until 1:30, and we were off and running. And today we have 4,500 covered lives, and we are under construction to more than double the size of this primary care facility. We'll be able to take care of around 7,000 covered lives. Some of our covered lives are at Rosen College, which has grown from about 75 students to 3,400. That's part of UCF. It's the Rosen School of Hospitality Management. Because they're so close to our facility and so far from the main campus, they come to Rosen Primary Care.
And I have to interrupt you just for a second there. Harris is talking about the Rosen Hospitality College. That what he omitted was that he donated the land and $10 million to start this college. And it has now, how many students?
Yeah, it's got 3,400, and 3 of my 4 kids are there.
One of the fastest growing colleges in the country.
That's correct.
So back to your facility. So how many doctors, nurses, et cetera?
Today we have 3 full-time primary care physicians, a staff of 28. We have radiology, we have podiatry, we're going to add acupuncture and chiropractics, cardiology. So we're adding about 15 offices where docs, specialists will be able to come in and take care of our associates. The facility is being built on the same property, only a little bit further away, and we will convert what is now the primary care facility into a sort of a sales and meeting conference facility. So we're going to use that space productively. The new center should be completed in January, and we're all very excited about it. Of course, our associates are very excited about it also.
Now, tell me, you're talking about primary care and some wellness and preventative. How does it work now if someone needs a service or a special consult that isn't covered in-house?
Well, if it's not covered in-house,
or not provided in-house.
Not provided in-house, right. We will recommend a list of specialists that we have. And of course, we have a relationship with a hospital, Florida Hospital. I'm involved in negotiating all of the rates or discounts with all of the specialists and the hospital. And I'm told that we've done very well for ourselves. So that's how we do it, and we'll refer to any number of specialists that we deem to be competent and the top of their field.
Now, most businesses, as you mentioned, have an insurance company that they're in contract with. Employees are asked to pay 10, 20% or some amount of that coverage. How does it work for you? How much do your employees, your associates, contribute?
Well, the cost for me per covered life has averaged over the last 7 years about $2,700, which is about a third of what the national average is.
About $9,000.
Well, I think
life, right?
maybe $8,000, $8,500. Our associates, individual will pay $15 a week, and for a family of 4 or 5, we'll pay about $50, $45 a week. And so we think that's quite fair. If you work for me and you're hospitalized, the maximum you pay is $500, and Rosen pays the balance. If you are hospitalized again that same year, you pay another $500, and I pay the balance. If you're hospitalized a third time, you pay nothing. An example, I think on Monday or Tuesday next week, a preemie will be discharged from the hospital. The preemie was born weighing 14 ounces. The preemie is in great shape now.
Great.
A total cost about $560,000. Mom and Dad paid $500. Rosen paid the balance.
Great. So, one of the more controversial things, when it's kind of funny how this came up. When I was on a site visit to the Shingle Creek property, the woman guiding me around started telling me, I saw sort of just this twinkle in the eye of the associates. I mean, just the service level. And I said, geez, you guys are obviously very engaged and happy. And everyone I met said they had been working there for 10, 15, 20 years, some more, I think. And I started hearing these stories about Mr. Rosen, including some funny. They say they don't want to go out by the pool at 6 a.m. because you're in your Speedo swimming every day. So you practice what you preach when it comes to healthcare. But she mentioned that, as I said in the opening remarks, that I guess a couple of years ago you instituted a smoke-free company, nicotine-free company, and that you do drug test for that.
Yes, we do.
And I was amazed at that. And so maybe you can tell us about when you made that decision, what did you do to transition into that policy, and how did people respond?
Yeah. Listen, that is controversial. I mean, how dare we pretend to be Big Brother? I mean, that's absolutely inappropriate, and I agree with that. It is. But I'm spending about $14 million a year on health care, and I believe in health care, not sick care. And I expect our associates to try to maintain a healthy lifestyle. And if I can encourage that in any way, I think it behooves me to do that. We have a myriad of programs to help people who are obese, to help people who are diabetic or pre-diabetic, to help people who have high cholesterol, to help people with a multitude of illnesses or potential illnesses. And it's all free. And indeed, if you smoked and you wanted to stop, we paid for anything that you wanted. If you wanted hypnosis, psychiatric care, psychological care, whatever you wanted, we paid for it. And we gave you every opportunity to stop. Well, it occurred to us after a lung cancer diagnosis in one of our associates that we were just being really foolish. That if we were serious about wanting our associates to be healthy, and if we wanted to be able to continue to expand our program, why not be a little bit more proactive? And so it didn't take very long. We are a company which some refer to as a democratic dictatorship. Everybody has a vote, and I ultimately will make the final decision. And everybody voted, and I said, we'll start in 6 months. And that's how it happened. We do drug tests, and I can't tell you, though, how many of our associates have come over to me and said, Mr. Rosen or Harris, thank you. I don't smoke anymore. I used to smoke 2 or 3 packs a day, and I know it was terrible, but I was addicted, and now, thanks to you, I'm not smoking. And those conversations that I have far outweigh the 1 or 2 individuals who have left over the past 2 years because we have detected nicotine.
Yeah. And when I heard of this, and this was long before I met Mr. Rosen, I was staying at the property, and so everyone I would run into, the bartenders, I'd chat them up, and then I would, hey, were you here a couple years ago when you guys went smoke free? What was that like? I had no idea why I was asking that we would be here today. And I guess I probably talked to, informally, about a dozen people. And almost universally positive things. I mean, they said that it wasn't a big deal. They supported it. A couple people said it gave them the kick in the butt to quit. They said people understood the reasons why. And there was only one person in particular, won't give you her name, who said, it's not a big deal, it's fine. She says, but we do sort of wonder what comes next. Next year, are we going to be asked to jump on the scale and calculate our body fat, and we have to maintain a certain body fat to keep our job?
And the answer is yes. No, I'm kidding. No, the answer is not.
You're here to announce the new program.
No, that's not true. No. But we do encourage health. We really do. We are very proactive, and if we do see individuals that are a bit overweight, a manager or supervisor will ask that individual if they wouldn't mind going to the medical facility, and Weight Watchers is free. All of the exercise programs are free. We do Zumba, we do stretching before we start the day. We're trying to convince those folks who are a bit reticent to engage that it will be beneficial to them. And we've had great success. We've had individuals who lost well over 100 pounds that will come over to us and say, thank you. I needed that little push. You gave it to me, and we appreciate it.
Now, you're offering so many services, and yet your costs are about a third of the national average.
Right.
I mean, is any of this because your associates are sort of a younger, healthier group to begin with?
And Kevin, that's really a wonderful question. And the answer is unequivocally no. A third of our associates, and I love them dearly, and we do a lot of work in Haiti, are Haitian. And many of them come to us without ever having been to a doctor. And we're seeing a lot of tuberculosis, a lot of AIDS, and a lot of other diseases that we believe we vanquished decades ago. Many of them don't read, write, or speak English, so this is not a very healthy group. I suspect if we had a healthy group of well-educated individuals who had good care when they were growing up, our cost could be $1,000 to $1,500 per covered life, or maybe even less.
Wow.
But we'd have to have the no smoking policy, and we would have to be as proactive as we are.
Right, good. So I guess my last question, then we want to open it up for you and for Chris to take questions from the audience, and if our friends on Twitter can solicit some questions from our friends outside of the room. My question, one thing I did learn, you're personally committed to fitness. You are personally committed to providing great care for all of your employees. I sort of jumped to the conclusion, I made an assumption that you would be a supporter of the Patient Protection Act, Obamacare as others call it, in terms of getting towards this idea of universal care. And I was wrong about that. You are not a supporter of the act, and share with us why.
And listen, that's really a wonderful question. I believe that everyone who works should have health care coverage. I believe that. The problem is I don't believe the government should do that. I believe that the private sector could do it much more efficiently. You know, it's interesting. Initially, Obamacare was if you don't provide insurance, health insurance for your associates, we're going to slap you with a $700 fine. Wow, I'm really scared. $700 compared to $8,000? I'll do that in a heartbeat. And then I started thinking, was that some sort of Machiavellian plan to encourage people to say, government, you take over? Well, I made a big fuss about it, and some of the media picked up on that, and I was on some of the national news stations talking about it. And lo and behold, it was increased from $700 to $2,000, which is still ridiculous. And so I do believe that there is sort of a philosophical quest on the part of this particular administration to want government to be in control of health care. I disagree with that. I've demonstrated that the private sector can do it really quite well and quite efficiently and quite inexpensively. And I think the employer has an obligation to do it. I mean, if you care for your associates, this is something you want to do. You want to demonstrate to them that you really do care, that you want them around for a long time, and you want them to be healthy, and you want their children to be healthy. Something else about that. I don't know how many organizations ask dependents to come in for physicals. But we discovered that one of the chefs that we hired had a wife at home who was bedridden. And we discovered that she weighed about 400 pounds. Well, we had covered her. And we thought, gee whiz, how many other situations lurking in the shadows might there be where it's a ticking bomb? So we said, you know what? Family health coverage, dependents come in for an annual checkup, and if we discover something that needs some help, we're going to be proactive about it.
That's great.
Yeah, and it works really quite well.
That's great.
By the way, she's down to about 220 pounds.
Wow.
And she's doing quite well.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, it is great. I'm happy about that.
That's good.